All right, questions for Rhett? What do you see?
Easy crowd.
What do you see out of South Carolina's defense?
A lot of speed. And they got a lot of. I mean, they got about 6 guys back that played a lot of football. I think early in the year they tried some new things, but they've kind of settled down now and played better the last few weeks. And last year they were one of the top defenses in the country, and to have some senior leaders and some older guys back that have played a lot of ball. Good group, and Wandy's been there a while and done some really good things. So they've had a couple weeks now to get ready, and I think they'll be ready to play.
They really struggle against the run in particular. Even Furman put up over 200 yards on them. Just what have you seen? And they're down a couple of guys on the defensive line. What do you see as to why, well, without giving away too much, but why you see they're struggling a little bit in that area?
I really don't know. I think what they've tried to do, specifically last game, you can tell they tried to really tighten some things up, and they did a good job with some things. They were down some guys. I fully expect them to all play. You always do in this league. Even if guys don't practice, you assume they're going to show up on Saturday until they don't. But especially their linebackers. They got guys that have played. They got guys up front that have played and have played on some really good defenses. And so we fully expect that they'll have a really good game plan, and that they'll execute it very well. It'll be very, very tough for us to run the ball against.
Rhett, on the offensive line, are y'all set on who's going to do what with Pat, Braden, whatever?
Yeah, we mix and match some things in the off week. Try to make sure everybody got as close to full speed as they can be this time of year. But we feel pretty good about the guys that have played the last couple games and where they're at. And we feel good about Pat making a lot of strides to be back to 100%. We feel good. Braden's gotten a lot of reps, and so we feel like if he's ever called upon, he'll be ready. And we're just trying to make sure our depth is good, and that if certain situations like arise in the first few games happen, that we're ready to put guys in where they need to be.
Do you anticipate having the same start lineup you've had?
I do.
Is it possible Braden Smith could start?
I don't think he's ready to do that just yet, but we've surely got him a lot of reps, and boy, he's really coming along. I mean, physically, he's very gifted, but you just need more and more reps, and then game reps are even different than practice reps, and so hopefully his role will expand, and we'll see how that goes, but we feel good about where everybody's at.
You just talked about practice today.
Practice, I thought today was really good. I mean, our guys probably flew around as good as they have in any practice all year. I mean, they came out with some intensity, some urgency. I thought from literally the beginning of practice to the end, it was as hard as we practiced at any time. I mean, it was a really good practice. Throwing and catching the ball, bouncing around, the tempo, the urgency. I think it was a really good practice. It was a good start to our prep.
Dessa talked a lot about first downs and just execution issues there. When the rushing average is down over a yard from last year on first downs, and when Nick's interceptions on those tip passes in particular are happening on first down, what were the things you guys identified this past week and on first downs in particular?
Well, I mean, the tip balls, I think he's thrown 3 interceptions this year, and 2 were on tip balls, and 1 he got hit, So those are things that we got to do the best we can to avoid. I mean, whether it's the way he set protections, or it's whether him finding an alley to throw through, or the protection being good enough that he doesn't get hit as he's throwing. But the positive is he hadn't thrown it to guys through progressions. I mean, it's had to be tipped or he's had to be hit. And then with regard to the rushing on first down, I mean, when you go through this league a second year, and you've got some new guys up front, but it's a second year, people are going to have a year to prepare for you now. There's some really good coaches. There's some really good defenses. And, we've got to execute better on first down to get more yards rushing. It's not anything that's rocket science. People are doing some good things scheme-wise. We've countered it, and we've got to be able to handle it and execute it at a better level than they do. And at times we have, and at times obviously we haven't, and that's why we're down a little bit.
There hasn't been a lot of consistent production outside your top 2 receivers. What do you credit that to, and what do you try to work on in the bye week, get more guys involved?
We're going to call the plays that we think give us the best chance to be successful in the passing game. And if the ball goes to those guys, it goes to those guys. And, the way it was last year at times, we didn't have, other than Sammy, a lot of guys with big numbers. But when guys' numbers were called, they made the plays. And that's where we got to get to. If a guy's number's called on that play, if that's where the quarterback's read takes him, whether he's the first option or the third option, if that's who they're going to leave open, if that's who they're going to give us the matchup, those guys got to make plays. We got to make throws and give them a chance to make plays. One game it may be this guy does have 3 or 4 catches, the next game he may not have any, and that may be the way the game goes. You got certain guys that you try to get the ball to, but at the same time, we're real big on the concept that's needed for the coverage, for the concepts needed for the situation, and trusting your read and taking the ball where you need to go with it. So the bottom line is when a guy gets an opportunity, he's got to make a play, and the quarterback's got to make a throw to give him a chance. I'm not worried about who gets what and spreading the ball around. I think if we're playing well, that'll happen. And if we're making the catches when we have the opportunities, guys' numbers will go up. And if we're making the throws when they're open, guys' numbers will go up. But we worked hard with every receiver, at every position, and we're going to take it where the read takes us, and guys got to make plays.
Rhett, on that note, how big of a loss is it when we heard today about Stanton Truitt being out for the season? I know he's a guy that you and Gus have mentioned. If he'd just been healthy earlier in the year with that hamstring, he probably would have already had more reps and everything to this point.
Yeah, you never want to lose anybody for the year. And Stanton was just starting to get to that point where we're going to try to increase his role. But, it hurts you probably more from a depth situation more than anything. But, we just hate for him. He was just starting to get comfortable and confident and not be as much of a freshman anymore. And he does have some great speed. But, those things happen in every season. Fortunately, it's nothing that he won't be able to recover from and overcome, and hopefully have a great career. So.
Rhett, last night, Gus kind of mentioned some of the evaluations y'all did on the off week were kind of internal, not just player-wise, coaching and stuff. What were some of the things you saw that maybe you could do better at, for the second half of the season?
Well, everybody always try to say, where can we improve? Try to put our guys in situations where, what we've repped is what we're going to call. And that way they're building the rep volumes of the things that need to be called. Putting them in good situations, not putting them in bad plays. Put them in as many good situations as we can. At the same time, as coaches, we got to ask, are we asking guys to do something that they're not capable of? Or do we need to word it different or coach it different so it gets through? Because at the end of the day, if we're not executing on certain levels that we're not in certain areas, then either they're not doing it because we're not communicating it right, or they're not doing it because we're putting them in a situation they're just not really meant for. And so I think when you can do that, you can step back and try to, how can we do a better job presenting things? How can we put guys in better situations? Then maybe you can tweak some things and improve just enough, because a little bit of improvement in this league can mean a lot.
Do you feel Rock Thomas is at the point now where you can put him into any situation, especially when you're looking for that explosive play because of what he's done?
Yeah, you still always are going to be leery of young guys in third down type situations, but at the same time, they get the reps that the older guys get, and they got to be ready when that time comes. But feel like he's grasped the offense. The game's slowed down enough that he can go play. I mean, there's still going to be freshman things. You always want to make sure they hold on to the ball and just they're going to get better with reps. But you kind of get to this point halfway in the season, if they have a good grasp of the foundation, you kind of got to turn guys loose.
Do you feel he's the type of guy to spark things, change the game a little bit at times?
I feel like he could be a really good compliment to Cap and to Corey and to what we're doing. And, anytime you can get somebody who can come in fresh and spark things, it always helps the whole team and the whole offense as a whole. So, we'll keep giving him opportunities.
You mentioned last week about Corey defenses, know what to look for when he goes out there. Was any this week, evaluating how to maybe better utilize him to catch defenses off guard, or maybe take advantage of his speed to the outside?
Well, Corey's a guy that, what he did last year was pretty impressive, and everybody knows that. And so, naturally, they're going to be ready for that. I think Corey's done a good job of running base plays this year. I think only 23% of his runs have been outside the tackle. So he runs inside the tackle a whole lot. And so I think that's what's going to help him as the year goes on. But, Corey's a guy that can be a one-play drive. And so, anytime you can free him up, you're going to try to find ways to do that.
Right, on first downs in particular, I don't know the exact numbers, but are you seeing the teams, because of your tendencies to run especially heavy on first down, are loading the box with 8 and 9 guys?
I don't know if they're loading it as much, but they're definitely playing the run, which is normal. And most teams that aren't pass heavy only teams are going to be more run oriented on first down anyways. But the biggest thing for us is when we do run it, 4 and 5 yard game is really good, and we've got to be able to execute and get those. At the same time, we got to be able to execute play actions and other things that take the pressure off that and keep us balanced. And so there's no question.
Is there a point? You're always going to be run first, and that's your identity. But is there a point for the passing numbers on first downs that it becomes too low for you? Because I think you're in like the hundreds of the raw passing yards on first down right now. Is there a point that's just too low for even you guys?
No, I mean, I don't worry about the yard. I hadn't even seen a stat on what our yards are on first down. What I am concerned with is our first down production. And to your point, I mean, I wouldn't say we're always going to be run first. we're gonna be balanced. And that, being balanced is you gotta be able to take what they give you. And if they're gonna load up to stop something, you gotta be able to answer, and you gotta be able to execute that answer. And at times this year we have, and we've been explosive, but at times we haven't, and we've not. And that's the inconsistency we gotta get rid of.
Rhett, 6 games into the season, how do you feel about, and I know you mentioned that there might be some of these roles that somewhat change after getting to look at the bye week and everything like that. The H-back position specifically, how have you felt about Brandon's play? And
I feel like with Brandon and particularly CJ, we got the two guys that give us the best chance there. You know, we may look at doing some things to help those guys out or try to focus on what they do better. But those are two senior guys that we're counting on.
how much did the open day at all possibly help Cameron Toney get any closer to possibly giving you guys some help there?
We're going with our older guys. We feel good about where they're at.
How much have you considered maybe expanding the passing element of the zone read? You know, we saw last year, obviously, the touchdown to Sammy. There are options there, but we really haven't seen that too much so far. Is that thought process and maybe expanding that?
No, we haven't changed our scheme at all this year, last year. I mean, those things, you can't predict sometimes what a defense is going to give you. And, you know, when people know things are there, they're going to cover them. And it's those moments they don't when you got to take advantage of it, like the Alabama game. But, you know, I think Nick or Jeremy or whoever's in there going to continue to hopefully do a good job reading it and taking where the read takes them. And if we get some of those, great. I would think we would as the year goes on. And if we don't, then that means the read's taking us elsewhere, and it still should be a positive play.
So is there a passing element in every read?
I don't know about every read, but I mean, the quarterbacks and the players, they're playing, they're dictating those things. And so, you know, we feel good about the scheme aspect of those. We may have tweaked a few things here or there, but, you know, it's going to boil down to us being better the second half than we were the first half. And, you know, fortunately, when you sit here and you're saying, man, we got to be a little better in the second half of the season, and you're still 5-1, you got a chance to still do all the things you want to accomplish, and that's a positive. If you were sitting here playing it, if you felt like you were playing at the best level you could play at, then you'd probably be a little worried. So, you know, I fully expect the way our guys approached last week and today, they're really hungry to improve and to play well.
Brett, on the zone read, is there ever a time when it's a call, it looks like a zone read, but it's actually just a handoff, or so you always read it?
There's always a time it looks like his own read. I can't tell you when we're doing what. I mean, you know, we're always reading it, we're always not reading it. We're always got a pass option, we never have a pass option.
Why do you look at me like you expected me to ask that question?
Bad, so I didn't want to. No.
Coming out of the bye week,
There's various ways we do it.
Okay, thank you.
coming out of the bye week, do you feel that you guys have properly been able to fix mistakes, rotate personnel, and put guys in the right spot, or do you feel like, man, I wish we had more time?
I do. I feel good. I feel good about where we're at. I feel good about our approach. I feel good about our plan. The bottom line is now we got to carry it over and perform.
Oh, good. All right.